Chosen ones, God said, from this moment forward, this your only primary assignment. Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in history when a message is spoken not to the crowd but to the few, those who have felt a quiet pull on their spirit, a divine interruption in the flow of ordinary life. Is not an ordinary gathering, and this is not an ordinary message. This is a moment of awakening, of clarity, and of assignment. Because when God speaks, he does not speak casually, and when he speaks now, it is because timing has reached fullness. Many of you have sensed it already, a shift you could not explain, a pressure in your spirit that would not let you remain comfortable, a knowing that the season you were in has ended, even if the next one has not yet fully revealed itself. This is what happens when heaven is about to redirect a life. God does not always shout, but when he does speak with authority, it is to announce transition, an ending of what was, and the beginning of what must be. Ladies and gentlemen, chosen ones are often misunderstood, not because they are wrong, but because they are early. They carry instructions before the world is ready to understand them. They feel urgency while others feel ease. They sense responsibility where others see options. And this is why many chosen ones wrestle internally, trying to balance what God is saying with what people expect. But tonight, that tension ends, because God is not asking for divided attention, he is calling for total alignment. From this moment forward, God is not negotiating with your distractions. He is not competing with your comfort. He is not adjusting his purpose to fit your schedule. He is issuing an instruction, a primary assignment that overrides secondary concerns, a divine focus that demands priority. And when God narrows your focus, it is not because he is limiting you, it is because he is positioning you. This introduction is not meant to excite you, it is meant to prepare you. Because assignment carries weight, it requires courage to let go of what no longer serves the call. It requires faith to step forward without full explanation, and it requires obedience to move even when the applause is absent. But understand this clearly, God never assigns without empowering, and he never calls without covering. Ladies and gentlemen, what you are about to hear is not a suggestion. It is not motivational language. It is not spiritual entertainment. It is a divine reminder of who you are, why you were set apart, and what must now take precedence in your life. The season of wandering has ended. The season of clarity has begun. And for those who recognize this moment, everything changes from here. Because when God says, from this moment forward, heaven stands at attention, and so must you. The moment of divine assignment does not arrive quietly for the chosen one. It interrupts, it disrupts, it draws a clear line between what was allowed and what is now required. When God declares, from this moment forward, he is not offering advice. He is issuing a command that rearranges priorities, relationships, habits, and identity. Everything that once competed for your attention suddenly loses its authority because heaven has announced a new order. Before this moment, your life may have felt scattered, not because you lacked ability, but because your energy was spread across too many directions. God allows that season for a reason. It reveals your gifts, exposes your limits, and trains your discernment. There comes a point where preparation ends and assignment begins. And when that moment arrives, God no longer permits spiritual wandering. He requires focus. This is where many people become uncomfortable. They enjoy the idea of purpose, but not the discipline of assignment. Assignment removes options. It narrows paths. It forces decisions. And for the chosen one, it often arrives when life seems unstable, when resources are uncertain, support is thin, and clarity feels incomplete. But this is intentional. God assigns in moments where trust must replace logic. A divine assignment is not based on your readiness, it is based on God's timing. If readiness were the requirement, no one would ever be chosen. God assigns because he knows what he placed within you before circumstances ever appeared. He speaks to what is eternal, not to what is visible. That is why the assignment feels heavy. It is pulling you into alignment with something older and greater than your present understanding. From this moment forward means your life is no longer about exploration, it is about execution. The questions change. You stop asking, what do I want? And start asking, what did God say? You stop negotiating obedience and begin practicing it. This is not the loss of freedom, it is the discovery of authority. because authority only functions where alignment exists. God does not give assignments to impress you, He gives them to establish you. Assignment stabilizes the chosen one, it anchors identity, it removes confusion. Even when the task is challenging, there is peace in knowing you are exactly where you are meant to be. That peace does not come from ease, it comes from agreement with heaven. The moment of assignment often requires separation, not always physical, but internal. Old desires lose their pull. Conversations feel hollow. Distractions become irritating. You find yourself uninterested in what once consumed you. This is not arrogance, this is consecration. God is clearing space so that nothing competes with what He has called primary. Many resist this moment because it demands sacrifice without explanation. God rarely outlines the full journey at the start. He reveals only enough to require faith. If He showed the entire picture, obedience would be transactional, not relational. But assignment is about trust. It is about believing that the one who speaks knows what lies ahead, even when you do not. Chosen ones must understand this. Delay after instruction is disobedience dressed as caution. Once God has spoken clearly, waiting is no longer wisdom, it is resistance. The enemy does not need to stop you, he only needs to slow you. And slowing often comes through overthinking, fear of failure, or concern about perception. But divine assignments are not validated by people, they are validated by fruit. The moment you accept your assignment, something shifts internally. Fear does not disappear, but it loses authority. Doubt may whisper, but it ends, no longer commands. You begin to move with resolve instead of hesitation. And though opposition may increase, so does clarity. Resistance is not a sign of error, it is confirmation of impact. God's assignments always outgrow the individual. They are designed to bless others, to alter environments, to shift atmospheres. That is why they feel demanding. You are carrying something that is not just for you, and when you attempt to shrink it to fit your comfort, frustration follows. Fulfillment only comes when you rise to meet what has been assigned. There is also a divine urgency attached to assignment, not panic, but precision. Time becomes valuable, energy becomes guarded. You no longer tolerate waste. This is not obsession, it is stewardship. God entrusts assignment to those He knows will protect it. Focus becomes a form of worship. It is important to recognize that assignment does not always come with public recognition. Often it begins in obscurity, quiet obedience, unseen discipline, private faithfulness, but heaven records every step. God watches how you handle small obedience before releasing larger responsibility. Promotion in the kingdom is never accidental, it is the result of consistent alignment. Some will misunderstand your focus. They will say you have changed, and they are right. You have changed directions, you have changed priorities, you have changed allegiance. You are no longer governed by convenience, you are governed by calling. That will always unsettle those who live without assignment. From this moment forward, your decisions must be filtered through one question: does this serve the assignment? If it does not, it is a distraction, no matter how good it looks. This is where maturity is revealed. Immature faith seeks excitement, mature faith seeks effectiveness. God does not revoke assignments because of fear or hesitation, He waits. But waiting has consequences. Time lost is influence delayed. Impact postponed affects more than you realize. Your obedience is connected to outcomes. You may never see fully, but heaven sees clearly. Assignment is not about perfection, it is about persistence. You will make mistakes, you will adjust, you will learn. But quitting is not an option once God has spoken. The call remains even when confidence wavers, and God's grace does not remove responsibility, it empowers it. When you embrace the moment of divine assignment, life simplifies, not because it becomes easy, but because it becomes clear. Confusion fades where obedience stands. Anxiety decreases where purpose leads. And though the road may be demanding, it is no longer empty. This is the moment where preparation ends and purpose begins, where excuses expire and execution takes their place, where the chosen one stops waiting for permission and starts walking in instruction. Heaven has spoken. The assignment is active. And from this moment forward, alignment is no longer optional, it is essential. Separation is never the punishment of the chosen one, it is the preparation. Before God elevates a life, He isolates it. not to weaken it, but to refine it. Promotion in the divine order never begins with applause, it begins with withdrawal. God removes noise before he releases power. He reduces access before he increases authority. And for the chosen one, this season often feels confusing because it looks like loss when it is actually alignment. God separates before he entrusts, not because people are evil, but because influence is fragile when surrounded by constant distraction. The chosen must hear clearly, move precisely, and obey quickly. Crowds dull discernment. Familiarity weakens urgency. Comfort softens conviction. So God does what only He can do. He creates distance. He closes doors you didn't ask to be closed. He disrupts connections you assumed were permanent. He changes desires so drastically that even you begin to recognize you no longer belong where you once fit. This separation is not random, it is strategic. God is protecting the assignment from premature exposure and protecting you from carrying weight you have not yet learned to manage. Many want promotion without preparation, visibility without maturity, influence without discipline. But God knows that elevation without separation produces collapse. He refuses to build platforms on unstable foundations. During separation, the chosen often feel misunderstood. People label you distant, changed, or proud. But what they cannot see is the internal restructuring taking place. God is recalibrating your values. He is retraining your focus. He is teaching you how to stand without constant affirmation. Because promotion brings pressure, and pressure exposes whatever separation failed to remove. God separates the chosen from distractions first, not sins, distractions, things that are good but not aligned, opportunities that look promising but do not serve the assignment, relationships that are comfortable but not constructive. Distractions D. Drain energy without producing impact. And God will not allow your strength to be wasted on what cannot carry your calling forward. There is also emotional separation. Old attachments lose their grip. You stop seeking validation where you once needed it. Approval becomes less important than obedience. This can feel lonely because the soul is learning to be led by instruction rather than affirmation. But this loneliness is temporary. It creates space for divine confidence, the kind that does not depend on crowds to move forward. Promotion requires trust, and trust is proven in isolation when no one is watching, when progress is slow, when obedience feels unrewarded. God watches how you handle quiet seasons, how you steward small responsibilities, how you remain faithful when the spotlight is absent. Separation reveals your true motivation. Are you committed to the assignment or addicted to recognition? Many people abandon their calling in the season of separation because it feels unproductive. But heaven measures progress differently. While you feel unseen, God is strengthening your discernment. While you feel delayed, God is sharpening your precision. While you feel forgotten, God is building endurance. None of this is wasted. Promotion that comes too early would destroy what separation is trying to protect. God also separates you from former versions of yourself. Old habits lose appeal. Old mindsets feel uncomfortable. You become aware of internal limitations you never noticed before. This is not condemnation, it is correction. God is upgrading your internal structure to support external expansion. Without this inner separation, outer promotion would overwhelm you. The chosen must understand that separation does not mean abandonment. God is closer in this season than ever. He speaks more clearly when noise is reduced. He leads more directly when distractions are removed. What feels like silence is often precision. What feels like distance is often focus. God is not absent, He is intentional. Promotion follows obedience, not urgency. You cannot rush what separation is designed to teach. Shortcuts lead to exposure. Compromise weakens authority. God would rather delay your visibility than damage your integrity. And integrity is the currency of lasting influence. Separation also reveals who is assigned to your future and who is only meant for your past. Not everyone can go where you are being sent. Not everyone can handle where you are being positioned. This does not make them wrong, it makes the assignment specific. Carrying resentment toward those who cannot follow only burdens the journey. Separation requires release, not bitterness. There is a moment in separation when clarity replaces confusion. You begin to see why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain plans collapsed. The pattern becomes visible. God was narrowing your path, not blocking it. He was funneling your focus, not limiting your potential. And when that Realization arrives, resistance fades. Promotion is not elevation for ego, it is expansion for impact. God promotes to increase responsibility, not comfort. That is why separation trains discipline. It teaches restraint. It develops discernment. It conditions the chosen to carry weight without becoming corrupted by it. Those who bypass separation cannot sustain promotion. They become dependent on applause, reactive to criticism, and unstable under pressure. But those who endure separation develop internal stability. They move with calm authority. They do not panic when challenged. They do not shrink when opposed. They have been trained in the quiet. Separation also tests loyalty. Will you remain faithful when support disappears? Will you obey when affirmation fades? Will you continue when the excitement is gone? These questions determine capacity. God only releases greater influence to those who have proven they will not abandon the assignment when conditions change. When promotion finally arrives, it often surprises the chosen. Not because it was unexpected, but because it feels natural. You step into it without strain. You carry it without intimidation. You move within it with confidence. That is the fruit of separation. It prepares you so thoroughly that promotion feels like continuation, not shock. If you are in a season where life feels quieter, smaller, or more restricted, do not misinterpret it. God is not reducing you, He is refining you. He is removing what cannot go with you, He is strengthening what must remain. He is training you to stand without leaning on external support. Separation before promotion is proof of divine investment. God does not isolate what He does not intend to use. He does not refine what He does not plan to elevate. This season has an expiration date, but its lessons are permanent. When the doors open, when visibility increases, when influence expands, you will realize a separation was mercy. It kept you from premature exposure. It preserved your focus, it protected your assignment, and it positioned you to walk into promotion with authority, clarity, and strength, fully prepared for what God always intended to release. The chosen are not called to chase many things, they are called to master one thing. God does not spread destiny thin, He concentrates it. When heaven assigns, it assigns with precision. That is why confusion often follows calling, because the world celebrates variety while God establishes focus. Many opportunities will appear, many invitations will come, and many voices will encourage you to do more, expand faster, and pursue wider paths. But the chosen must learn that expansion without direction leads to dilution. God never intended for assignment to be crowded. He intended it to be clear. One assignment becomes the lens through which every decision is made. Without that clarity, energy leaks, time is wasted, progress slows. But when the chosen commit to the one thing God has entrusted to it, momentum begins to build, not gradually but decisively. The danger for the chosen is not failure, it is distraction. Failure teaches lessons. Distraction erodes purpose. You can be busy and still be disobedient. You can be productive and still be misaligned. Activity does not equal obedience, only alignment does. That is why God insists on one primary assignment. It protects you from mistaking movement for progress. One assignment does not mean one skill or one expression, it means one core mandate. Everything else must serve it. Your talents, resources, relationships, and time are not meant to compete with your assignment, they are meant to support it. When something pulls you away from the core, it must be questioned, even if it looks beneficial. Many chosen ones struggle here because they are capable of many things. Ability becomes temptation. You can do many things well, but you were not called to do everything. Capability does not equal calling. Just because you can does not mean you should. God assigns based on impact, not versatility. The enemy often disguises distraction as opportunity. Open doors are not always divine doors. Some are tests of discernment. If the opportunity does not align with the assignment, it will eventually drain you, even if it looks successful on the surface. God never sends opportunities that require you to abandon what He already assigned. Focusing on one assignment requires courage. It means saying no without guilt. It means disappointing people who benefited from your availability. It means releasing paths that once felt promising. But every yes to distraction is a no to destiny, and every no to distraction is a yes to effectiveness. God's power flows where focus is maintained. Diffused attention weakens authority. Concentrated obedience strengthens it. This is why the chosen are often led into seasons where their options shrink. God is not limiting them, He is sharpening them. Like a blade, purpose is most effective when fine to an edge. There will be moments when focusing on one assignment feels risky. It feels like placing all weight on one direction. But faith is directional. Trust requires commitment. God does not reward hesitation, He responds to decisiveness rooted in obedience. Once the assignment is clear, wavering becomes the greatest threat. The one assignment often feels ordinary at first. It may not look impressive. It may not receive immediate recognition. But God does not begin with visibility, He begins with faithfulness. Great impact grows from consistent obedience in what looks small. When the chosen despise simplicity, they delay significance. The discipline of one assignment trains patience. It requires showing up repeatedly without immediate reward. It requires refining craft, strengthening character, and building endurance. Many abandon their assignment because they seek variety to escape boredom. But boredom often signals the transition from excitement to mastery. And master, why is where authority is born. One assignment also simplifies decision making. Life becomes clearer. Choices become easier. When everything is filtered through the assignment, confusion fades. You stop chasing what is popular and start committing to what is purposeful. This clarity produces peace even in pressure. The chosen must guard their focus aggressively. Distraction is rarely loud, it is subtle. It begins with small compromises, minor detours, and harmless additions. But over time, these dilute impact. God expects vigilance. Focus is stewardship. Losing it is not neutral, it has consequences. When you fully commit to one assignment, growth becomes exponential. Depth produces influence. Consistency produces credibility. Authority grows not from expansion but from depth. Those who dig deep change landscapes. Those who scatter energy leave shallow footprints. There will be seasons where the assignment requires solitude, repetition, and refinement. These are not delays, they are investments. God values quality over speed. Rushing leads to instability. Depth leads to endurance. What God builds through focus lasts. One assignment does not mean isolation from others. It means alignment with those who support the same mandate. God sends connections that complement your assignment, not compete with it. When relationships distract, they must be evaluated. When they reinforce, they must be protected. The chosen must also learn to release comparison. Looking at others pursuing different assignments creates unnecessary tension. God did not assign you to duplicate another's path. Comparison steals contentment and fractures focus. The assignment you carry is unique, even if it looks similar to others on the surface. Commitment to one assignment also reveals trust in God's design. It says, "What you gave me is enough." It resists the urge to chase more to feel validated. It honors the belief that God's instruction is complete, not lacking. When the chosen stop scattering their energy, something shifts internally. Confidence stabilizes, authority deepens, fear diminishes. You move with certainty because you are no longer pulled in multiple directions. Alignment produces strength. One assignment faithfully executed outweighs many pursuits left unfinished. God does not measure success by how much you attempted, but by how fully you obeyed. Completion carries power. Fulfillment releases authority. If you find yourself restless, constantly switching directions and seeking new excitement, it may not be because the assignment is wrong. It may be because focus is lacking. Restlessness often signals uncommitted obedience. Peace follows alignment. God honors those who commit fully to what He has assigned. He supplies endurance. He releases provision. He opens doors at the right time. But He does not fund divided focus. Heaven responds to unity of purpose. One assignment, mastered through obedience, becomes the platform for everything else God intends to release. When you honor the one thing, God multiplies its reach. But when you abandon it for variety, impact fragments. The chosen are not called to be everywhere, they are called to be effective. And effectiveness is born when one assignment becomes the center of life, the filter of decisions, and the focus of obedience until God Himself declares it complete. Obedience is not built on understanding, it is built on trust. The chosen often wait for clarity before movement, but God waits for movement before clarity. This is the order of the kingdom. God does not reveal the full picture because the assignment is not a contract. It is a relationship, and relationships are sustained by trust, not explanations. When God speaks an instruction, He does not invite debate, He invites alignment. Yet many delay obedience because they want reassurance, confirmation, and visible evidence before they act. But faith is not proven by certainty, it is proven by response. Obedience that waits for understanding is not obedience, it is control disguised as caution. God speaks to your spirit before He speaks to your mind. That is why obedience often feels uncomfortable. Your intellect wants data, timelines, and guarantees, but your spirit recognizes the voice. The chosen must learn to move when the spirit is convinced, even if the mind is unsettled. This is where maturity is revealed. Understanding often arrives after obedience, not before it. God reveals next steps as you move. Direction follows motion. Stagnation breeds confusion, while obedience produces clarity. Many complain that God is silent, not realizing that silence is often a response to inaction. Heaven speaks to those who are already moving. The demand for understanding can become a form of resistance. When you insist on knowing how everything will work out, you place conditions on obedience. But God does not negotiate assignments. He gives instruction and waits to see if trust will follow. Partial obedience delays progress. Delayed obedience weakens momentum. Chosen ones must recognize that obedience always costs something. It costs comfort, it costs familiarity, it costs reputation, it costs the illusion of control. That is why many hesitate. But obedience also releases authority. When you obey without full understanding, you demonstrate trust in God's character, not your perception. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. You tell yourself you are being cautious, strategic, or patient, when in reality you are afraid of loss, failure, or judgment. But God does not call the fearless, He calls the obedient. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is movement in spite of it. Obedience over understanding requires humility. It means accepting that God sees what you cannot, that His timing is precise even when it feels delayed, that His ways are higher even when they seem inconvenient. Pride demands explanation. Humility accepts instruction. There will be moments when obedience contradicts logic. You will be instructed to move before resources appear, to speak before validation arrives, to act before support is visible. These moments test allegiance. Do you trust God's voice or do you trust circumstances? The chosen are distinguished by whose voice they follow. God often withholds full understanding to protect you from fear. If you saw the full scope of the assignment, the opposition, and the sacrifices required, you might retreat. So God reveals the path step by step. Each step builds confidence. Each act of obedience strengthens trust. Obedience creates spiritual momentum. When you move in alignment, doors begin to open that you could not force open. Provision appears that you could not plan for. Support emerges that you did not request. God responds to obedience with confirmation, but confirmation follows movement, not the other way around. Many want reassurance before obedience, but reassurance is the reward of obedience. Peace comes after alignment. Confidence grows after action. Clarity follows commitment. Waiting for these things before moving keeps you stuck. The chosen must learn to obey even when misunderstood. Others may question your decisions. They may call you impulsive or unrealistic. But obedience often looks foolish to those who are not called to carry the assignment. Their lack of understanding does not invalidate your instruction. Delayed obedience often results in missed opportunities. Timing matters. God's instructions are time sensitive. Obedience later is not the same as obedience now. When God says move, He is aligning circumstances, people, and provision in real time. Hesitation disrupts that alignment. Obedience is also cumulative. Each act builds upon the last. Skipping one step affects the next. God designs instructions in sequence. You may not understand the purpose of a step, but it connected to what follows. Obedience keeps the sequence intact. Trust deepens through repeated obedience. The more you obey, the more confident you become in recognizing God's voice. Discernment sharpens, doubt weakens, fear loses its grip. Obedience trains spiritual sensitivity. Chosen ones must guard against selective obedience, doing what feels safe while ignoring what feels risky. Partial obedience is still disobedience. God does not bless compromise, He blesses alignment. And alignment requires full surrender. There are seasons where obedience feels lonely. You may feel unsupported or isolated. But God often removes human support to strengthen divine dependence. This is not cruelty, it is training. Independence from God weakens authority, dependence strengthens it. Obedience also reveals identity. You discover who you are when you choose God's will over your preferences. You step into authority when you act in alignment with instruction rather than emotion. Obedience anchors identity. God does not require you to understand everything, He requires you to trust Him completely. Understanding comes in fragments, in hindsight, in testimony. But obedience happens in real time. When you obey without understanding, you invite God into the details. You allow Him to orchestrate outcomes beyond your imagination. Control limits possibility. Trust expands it. Obedience is not blind, it is relational. It is responding to a voice you have learned to recognize. The chosen do not obey because they are naive, they obey because they know who is speaking. Every great move of God begins with someone obeying without full understanding. History is shaped by those who acted on instruction rather than clarity. Obedience activates destiny. If you wait until everything makes sense, you will never move. Faith does not wait for certainty, it responds to calling. And when obedience becomes your priority, understanding will follow, line by line, step by step, exactly when it is need. The weight of a divine assignment is unlike anything the world can measure. It is heavy, not because God burdens the chosen, but because He entrusts them with authority. When God gives a primary assignment, He also releases a corresponding power, protection, and provision. But this blessing is not optional. It requires full engagement, unwavering focus, and a willingness to walk the path exactly as instructed. The world may not understand it, circumstances may challenge it, even your own mind may question it. Yet the reward for obedience is unmatched because it aligns your life with heaven's timing and purpose. The power released through commitment to a primary assignment is not gradual, it is sudden. The moment the chosen step fully into obedience, unseen forces align. Doors open that had been closed. Relationships shift into place. Resources appear that were previously unavailable. People are positioned exactly where they need to be. And the assignment, which may have seemed daunting, or impossible, begins to move forward in ways that defy human explanation. This is the law of divine alignment. Heaven moves in response to faithfulness. Chosen ones often underestimate the significance of this moment. They see the assignment as a task, a job, or a challenge, rather than what it truly is, a conduit for supernatural influence. The assignment carries within it a seed of authority. When nurtured through obedience, it grows into impact. What God entrusts is never ordinary. It is always catalytic, capable of transforming circumstances, people, and even entire seasons. That is why the chosen must treat it with reverence and discipline. There will be pressure, for nothing divine moves without opposition. The assignment will draw resistance because the enemy recognizes its power. Fear, doubt, distraction, and delay are all designed to test the chosen. They measure whether commitment is rooted in understanding or in divine trust. The chosen must stand firm, moving forward despite intimidation, criticism, or obstacles. Strength is not developed in comfort, it is forged in challenge. The more the enemy resists, the more the assignment demonstrates its significance. Every decision must now be measured against the primary assignment. Choices that distract, delay, or dilute focus are no longer acceptable. This is not rigidity, it is stewardship. Stewardship over the assignment determines the speed of fulfillment and the depth of impact. The chosen must understand that authority grows in proportion to focus. Fragmented attention weakens influence, concentrated obedience magnifies it exponentially. God equips those He assigns, often in ways that are not visible at first. The chosen may feel unprepared, under-resourced, or inadequate, yet this is intentional. Heaven rarely releases what is fully prepared in human terms, it releases what is fully obedient in spiritual terms. When you step forward despite perceived insufficiency, divine provision manifests exactly where and when it is required. The assignment tests not your readiness but your willingness. Patience becomes essential. The power of the assignment does not always show results immediately. It operates according to divine timing, not human impatience. The chosen must resist the temptation to force progress, manipulate circumstances, or compromise integrity. Faithful persistence under delay strengthens the authority of the assignment, preparing it for greater impact once activation occurs. What is released too early is vulnerable. What is released in obedience and timing endures. Isolation often accompanies the season of assignment. God separates each chosen not to punish them, but to protect them. During this time, the power of the assignment is being refined and distractions are minimized. Loneliness is a crucible for dependence on God alone. It is in this solitude that clarity, discernment, and alignment are strengthened. The chosen emerge from this period ready to exercise authority with precision and confidence. Obedience activates power, delay diminishes it. The assignment is alive, responding to commitment. Every act of alignment, every step of faith, and every decision to prioritize the assignment fuels its momentum. Conversely, hesitation allows resistance to gain a foothold, weakening influence and prolonging the path. The chosen must move decisively, understanding that divine power is conditional on action. The magnitude of the assignment often surpasses personal understanding, that is deliberate. God intends for the chosen to rely on his provision rather than human wisdom. The assignment carries a supernatural dimension, scion that cannot be fully grasped by intellect alone. Faith, obedience, and focus are the keys that unlock this unseen realm. When the chosen align with these principles, the assignment begins to manifest in ways that defy natural expectation. Those who honor the primary assignment experience multiplication. What begins as a single act of obedience can expand into influence that touches many lives. The assignment is never contained, it radiates. One decision executed with focus can alter circumstances far beyond the individual. Heaven's economy operates on obedience, not effort, and the impact of faithful alignment is exponential. This is why the chosen must guard against distraction and dilution at all costs. Challenges will intensify as the assignment progresses. People may question motives, circumstances may appear resistant, even internal doubts may arise. Yet the chosen must understand that difficulty is not a signal to retreat, it is an indicator of significance. What God entrue, best will always encounter opposition because its release affects realms beyond immediate perception. Authority emerges not in absence of challenge, but through overcoming it. Consistency is crucial. The chosen cannot approach the assignment sporadically or selectively. The power released is proportional to commitment. Each day, each decision, and each act of obedience fuels momentum. Neglect diminishes impact. Vigilance ensures progress. What appears small in the moment often determines the scale of ultimate fulfillment. Heaven measures faithfulness, not grand gestures, and the accumulation of small, consistent actions leads to remarkable outcomes. Faith must guide every step, understanding will follow, but faith must precede it. Human reasoning will often fail to explain the path, but divine wisdom orchestrates the journey perfectly. The chosen move not by what is visible, but by what is promised. Obedience, even in uncertainty, activates power and releases favor that would otherwise remain dormant. The assignment is also transformative. It does not merely achieve objectives, it shapes character. Responsibility strengthens humility. Authority cultivates wisdom. Influence builds discernment. The chosen are not only tasked with executing the assignment, they are being shaped to embody it. Heaven's investment in the assignment is also an investment in the one carrying it. Finally, the chosen must understand that obedience ensures sustainability. Power released prematurely or without alignment is unstable. Focused commitment stabilizes authority. It secures long-term impact. It ensures that the blessing of the assignment does not become a burden, but fulfills its intended purpose. When the chosen fully embrace the assignment, nothing can prevent the manifestation of God's plan. From this point forward, the chosen are called to recognize the assignment as sacred, the obedience as essential, and the power as inevitable. Everything in heaven and on earth responds to faithful alignment. The assignment is alive, authority is released, and destiny moves forward, not gradually but decisively, as the chosen step fully into the obedience that activates it.